What's going on, everybody? Tim Lawson here, host of The Better Life, and from the USL Twitter handle, here to talk about the USL games on March, what is today? March 26th. By the way, yesterday was Medal of Honor Day, for those of you keeping track at home, for those that like such things. Today's March 26th. There's a decent slate on the board, but not a whole lot of bets. I actually only have 3 plays on the lineup today. Rather than just the schedule, I actually pulled up, let's see here. Let's get this pulled up. Of course, I had to restart everything and I forgot to reset it up. But here is, I'm going to use Barstool as my reference here, only because I know Barstool's not available everywhere. Barstool's available in a lot of states, and Barstool actually has, I think, the most like straightforward set of most straightforward market that we want to bet in the USL. So this is in no way an endorsement for them as a book, but this is sort of I think it's DraftKings. I went in there. They didn't have the Asian lines for the USL up yet. FanDuel doesn't like their handicap, the way they mark FanDuel and BetMGM, the way they market their handicap lines are a little bit I think confusing to some bettors. So to be the most straightforward, I'm going to use Barstool here. And I'm doing this with fewer notes than before because I have a bunch of content to make today for the Better Life and other things. And so I just wanted to get this started. So let's look at today's lineup. We're going to start with Detroit FC and Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Pittsburgh's going into Detroit FC. Detroit has looked good. They were a 7-1 underdog in their opening match against San Antonio. They ended up losing 1-0. Again, they only lost in the 10 minutes in which they weren't the better side, in my opinion. But they did ultimately lose. Then they host Charleston. They win that 1-0. Charleston, I thought, did okay. Detroit did better, and they won. Now they're hosting Pittsburgh, who, in my opinion, could win the East. And the big question mark here, and shout out to the Houndsy podcast that focuses on Pittsburgh Riverhounds for bringing this up. But, I mean, we've seen Pittsburgh with more minutes on the field against a 10-man team than we have them doing 11v11. Because in both of their matches, their opponents have conceded red cards. And if you go back to the Memphis game, Memphis held their own until they conceded that red card. And then they lost control and they conceded 3 goals. But we don't know how this Pittsburgh team, we don't know how potent this Pittsburgh team can be 11v11. I'm confident they'll win. I think this line's right. I think this line's pretty close to being right. There's probably a little love on Pittsburgh here because we know a little bit more than them historically. If this line moved any further, and let's look at the Asian line real quick. The Asian line for this 2.5 is I'm sorry, that's the total. Yeah, Asian. Oh, they don't have a spread on the full time. Here I am saying like, hey, they have the markets I want to look at. Anyhow, let me look at another marker real quick. Yeah, half a goal. So Detroit City is a half a goal underdog. I think that's about right. If this moves, I may add Detroit City as a play. Like if this got to 0.75 on the Asian line, it might be a play. I don't have anything in the account yet, but this is going to be a really good match to watch. And this is a 4:00 Eastern game. I highly recommend watching it if you're into the USL. ESPN Plus is where you can watch all USL matches. This is going to be a really good game, and this is going to be a game, assuming red cards don't ruin everything like they do. This is going to be a game that I think informs both teams moving forward. So a lot of I should say not a lot of adjustment, but a lot of information I hope coming out of this match. Going into the next one, New Mexico United hosting Orange County. This line's right. I think New Mexico should be the favorite that they are. They're they're laying half a goal. They're slight favorites. There's some juice in their money line. I think that 2.5 is exactly what I had the fair at for the total. So no bet here. Another good game. I believe New Mexico is ultimately going to prevail. I think Orange County still has a lot of questions, and New Mexico is a really strong team. I believe in them to win. However, I do believe this is going to be a low-scoring game. So I'm not going to risk an Orange County draw in that case. So I'll probably watch this game. I'll probably watch New Mexico win, but no play for me here, as I think the lines are fair. Miami hosting Loudoun United. Now, this, I have a lot to say here. This is the match that I have the most to say, I believe, in it. And the first thing I'm going to say is going to sound counterintuitive to what I'm going to tell you that what I played. Loudoun United is a darling currently in the USL. Forgive me as I take a sip of coffee. Thank you. Loudoun United's a bit of a darling. They come out firing. They win at home against Indy. They win in New York. They look great doing it. Now they have to go into Miami to face what a lot of people believed was going to be a contender for the East. Loudoun sitting at the top of the table, 2-0, feeling good. Here's the thing about those first two matches, though. The first match, they had a 24-hour loan from DC United for a handful of players, so they had a little bit more strength in their side, in my opinion. Not something that got reflected in the line, or if you look at the result, I don't know if that's evident either. And then in New York, they were not controlling that match until New York conceded a red card. So I actually came into this match expecting to fade Loudoun. I thought Loudoun was going to get a little more love than they did on this opener. This opened at where is it now? It's Loudoun's a plus 650 underdog. I got them at plus 1000, 10-1. Let me drop that banner so you know what I'm referring to here. So Loudoun catching 2 goals is what the opener was. I bet that at minus 130, plus 1000 or 10-1 on the three-way money line. Those are long gone. You can't get those anymore. I would not play Loudoun plus 700 or I would not play them below plus 700, and I've seen that at a few books, so you can shop around for that number. The plus 2's gone. You can get plus 1.75, which I think is a fine bet, but it would be more of a flat bet than a strong bet, in my opinion. Loudoun plus 2 was a no-brainer, but I think there's a little bit of value still at anything more than plus 1.5. As I ultimately think Loudoun's probably going to lose this by 1, is what we may end up seeing. Now, you're probably wondering, look, you just told us you were looking to fade Loudoun, and now you're telling us you're backing Loudoun. Well, here's why. One, Miami wins 2-0 against a New York team that doesn't look great. Then they go into Louisville and they they lose 2-0 against who's probably the best team in the East, so that's fine. But they were like, not only did they not score, I mean, they kind of got bullied, in my opinion, that game. I mean, it didn't look close. Miami had a handful of chances that they couldn't take advantage of, but Louisville was in control of that match for much of what I watched. Miami is still figuring things out, in my own opinion. And here's the kicker. Here's why Loudoun 10-1 was a no-brainer. You have to play it. One, a team in decent form should not be that big of an underdog against a team that's still finding form. Two, there have been half as many red cards in the USL as there's been games. So for every 2 games there's been a red card, which means we're seeing players leave the field. Sometimes they're straight, a few of them have been straight reds. Most of them have been double yellows. With that, a red card can change a game on at a moment's notice. And what Loudoun did show us a little bit in the first game when Indy took a red card, even though I don't think dynamic really changed too much there, but definitely in the second game, Loudoun showed us that when they're up a man, they know how to adjust and they know how to take advantage of that. Now, I'm not telling you that Miami's definitely going to take a red card, but when you're looking at a red card every other game, I will take the competitive team at 10-1, knowing that if this is a game that a red card shows up, that they're going to be able to adjust. And I even believe that they'll even be able to do that with if they catch a red. But I took the 10-1 with the belief that they have a puncher's chance in general. And if this is a look until the red card epidemic slows down, I think you have to take big dogs like this if you believe they can compete Now, look, I'm not rushing to take a couple of these teams. I'm probably not taking Oakland at 10-1 in this situation because they're still to be proven. But Loudoun's proven that they can adjust. They went from having no control of that game over New York, caught New York gets a red, they're up a man, and they went on to score 3 goals. And I'll tell you what, last year Loudon couldn't do that. Loudon was not making those types of adjustments. So I believe in this Loudon team that they're competitive. I do think that the market, depending on how this game plays out, may start favoring them in a way that they may be fadeable. But I took the +2. I took the 10-1. I would not play this below +1.5 or below 7-1. And those are just sort of gut. That's just a little bit of guidance. I'm not even telling you that those are plays. These are what I played. This is what I grade with. Okay, so that is Loudoun and Miami. The total is 3.25 at the moment, or 3.5 with juice on the under. But I do see it slowly creeping upwards. If it gets to a fair 3.5, I'm taking the under. That's not a play yet, but if this keeps on creeping up that way and I get that number, I am going to take the under. I think Loudon's good for an under here as well, as I think they can slow down Miami and probably aren't going to be as potent against Miami as maybe they have like in the second halves of earlier games. So, okay. What's next? Birmingham Legion hosting Colorado Springs. This is I don't know who either of these two teams are yet. Colorado Springs does fine against OC, and then they only win 1-0 against Monterey Bay. And then Birmingham Legion, they pull off a draw against Tampa Bay, and then they get routed by Tulsa. Don't know who these two teams are. I think these lines are fair. I think the total is fair. What's the total on this match? Total's 2.5. Yeah, that's fair. It wouldn't surprise me if that lands 2. Wouldn't surprise me if that lands 3. So 2.5 is a fair line there. Moving on to Louisville City hosting Indy 11. So here's interesting. So we have Indy 11's about what do they got here? 6.5. Yeah. They got about a 6.5 underdog here, 6.5-1, I should say. Going into Louisville City. Now, if you remember, this was an absolute play when I played it at Las Vegas and Las Vegas going into El Paso. And this is where the context on lines matter, right? So I look at that match and then I look at this match. Indy 11 should be a bigger dog, in my opinion. You can't tell me that El Paso was. You can't tell me that El Paso was that this is comparable to that game, right? Maybe this is more fair, and of course that was not a fair line, which is why we bet it. But I do think in the 11 could be even a slightly bigger dog here. I can't take either side. I can't. The line's probably right with Louisville. I'm not betting in the 11 at the moment. 2.5 is the total. I don't know. I guess that's right. Lou City could win this 2-0. Indy 11 could sneak one in for this to be 3. I'm not sure. I don't think Indy 11's going in there and winning. They've looked underwhelming largely, and even though Louisville's clearly the favorite here, I'm not laying the 1.5, and that's a pretty steep money line to risk it. So not playing Louisville or not playing anything in this game. Tampa Bay Rowdies hosting Hartford Athletic, another one where I think the dog is probably justified. Hartford Athletic, they got a yellow against, or they got a red against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh took care of business. Hartford's still just a lot to. We don't know. We don't know a whole lot about Hartford this season. They're fraudulent from last season, in my opinion. They were really difficult to bet on or against last season, so I'm hesitant this season. But I need more data. Look, a lot of this. Let me take another sip of coffee. A lot of this early season betting is, what do we know about these teams? And then what do we believe? And what is the intersection of those two things? And is there a play based on that? So with this, Tampa Bay, we know they're a strong team. They took care of business against Atlanta. They ended up beating Indy. They got it. They're a strong team, even with the draw against Birmingham. Hartford, what do we know? We know that they couldn't hold on against Pittsburgh. We know that they were kind of fraudulent last season. And what do we believe about these teams? Well, I believe Rowdy's a strong team, and I believe Hartford is always going to be one of these dogs. I think this is a line that we're going to see often with Hartford until they prove us otherwise, especially going against teams like this. I think the 1.5 goal line. Well, I mean, I know you can't see it. Like I'm looking at two screens here, but I think that the money line is probably right. Um, if you go with my philosophy that no one should really be as big of a dog, I wouldn't blame you for taking Hartford here because we don't know so much about them. I didn't play it, but if you told me you put Hartford 7-1 in your account, I wouldn't blame you because we don't know enough about them. And the only game we saw them in so far was going into a difficult game at Highmark Stadium in Pittsburgh, where they conceded a red and had to play a man down. So, yeah, I wouldn't blame you for taking that. I didn't, but good luck to you if you did. Las Vegas FC hosting Memphis. Now, this is probably, I'm not surprised that Las Vegas is coming down. Las Vegas opened a little more than plus 210 on the three-way. The total here is 3. I wish see, one thing I don't like, the one thing I don't like about Barstool, and maybe I'll make this adjustment moving forward, is that they spend all this space, right, for nothing. And then they just have like the 3, like why not scoot this over and have like the total over here? Yeah, I mean, hey there, Barstool. Why are you wasting all this space? So the money line thing here I think is right. Even though Memphis loses after conceding a red. Well, no, I'm sorry. Memphis, loses after conceding a red to Pittsburgh. They ended up winning against Oakland. That's fine. Las Vegas, of course, is going to be this exciting team for people to bet on after they beat Phoenix and then after they have this exciting match against El Paso. Like, I don't know if we know how good Phoenix is yet. Offensively, we know they can handle it, but the fact that Monterey Bay got 2 against them and then Las Vegas beats them 2-1, how good is that Phoenix defense right now? Is Las Vegas really? I mean, look, they lost. They couldn't get anything against New Mexico. That's a strong team. I would put Memphis still a little behind New Mexico, but I don't think I don't think this is such an obvious sort of value on Las Vegas as I saw other people maybe hint at. I think this line's right. The total open 3, which is fair, and we're moving on. Here is a game that I did make a play in small. It just crossed the threshold of a play, in my opinion. Oakland Roots, Monterey Bay. Let's actually go into this one because I want to see what the. Oh, that's right. They just have the total here. Goodness gracious, I forgot about that. I don't know why they don't have the spread here. Anyway, so the spread that I'm seeing is half a goal. I took the plus half a goal with Monterey Bay. I'm sorry, I took draw no bet. I'm sorry. It is plus half a goal, which I think is a good play if you would like to catch the draw as well. I took Monterey Bay draw no bet at plus 217. Let's see if draw no bet is in this line of corners. Total goals by both. Oh, what is total goals? Ooh, that might be a play there too. Does Oakland really get 2 here? I don't know. Okay. Anyways, I took draw no bet at plus 217. That line moved a couple times after I bet it, so my apologies if that's not available anymore. But I don't know. Does Oakland really deserve to be this big of a favorite against Monterey Bay? What has Oakland done? They did nothing in their first game, which of course now I can't remember who it was against. Who was their first game against? That's right, RGV Toros, who have been sort of underwhelming this season. Oakland couldn't get one against that. Oakland ends up getting one against Memphis in a loss. Now they're hosting Monterey Bay. Monterey Bay, of course, much to be we don't know much about them yet, but they scored 2 against Phoenix in their opening game. I think that says something, right? Even at a 4-2 loss, I think that says something. They go into Colorado Springs. They hold Colorado Springs to 1 goal, even after they conceded a red. So the goal came in the 40th minute. They conceded the red in the 65th minute. They didn't concede another goal after that. And now they're hosting they're going into Oakland, who hasn't really shown much better. I think I had this game closer to a coin flip. I don't want to take Monterey Bay on the money line because we haven't seen them win yet, so I want to see them win before I believe that they might be able to win a game like this. But I took the big money at on draw no bet because I think this game likely ends in a draw, and I will take the chance that Monterey Bay can get it done against an underwhelming Oakland team. And again, another tenet of sports betting: get ahead of the market before the market picks up on it. The market doesn't really know much about Monterey Bay. What do we know? Well, we know Monterey Bay can score. They scored twice against Phoenix. Even with nothing against Colorado Springs, we believe they can get. So far, they've scored more goals than Oakland has this season, right? So, give me Monterey Bay draw no bet plus 217. I don't really have a fear on the draw no bet. Catch if you can't get over 2-1, maybe just catch the half a goal that you can get anywhere from like -120 to -130, depending on where you shop it. But that might be maybe a better way of doing that. And then the next bet or the last game of the day. The Sunday games aren't up yet, but the last game of the day is actually my biggest exposure. Let's see what they have the total here at because that is what my bet's at. Asian lines. Yeah, so they have 2.75. So my biggest exposure on the day is on over 2.5 at -135 is where I was able to get it. Now this opened 2.5 with -150 on the over. Phoenix and San Diego. Phoenix has scored 4 in their first game and 1 in their second game, and they're lost to Las Vegas. Both of those games hit 3 and went over. San Diego has had 3 games. One went over that number, or I'm sorry, one went under that number. So their last game against Tulsa, where they couldn't, San Diego had plenty of chances. They didn't get there, but they played a 2-1 game against LA Galaxy. They played a. Why doesn't the you know what's weird? Whenever I look up the score for the Sacramento New Mexico game, it never wants. I don't know why Google does not register the goal line of that game. Anyways, San Diego has shown us that they can score. We know they're a talented team. Phoenix has both shown us that they can score and that they concede goals. I don't think there's anything like if this is just a 1-1 draw, how boring of a game this is. How disappointing of a game this is between Phoenix and San Diego. Two teams that can score and two teams that can be scored on, we've seen. So I think I made my fair 3. So at 2.5, it was definitely a play. Here we're seeing 2.75. It's not as strong of a play at 2.75. Like this is one of the instances where price always matters, but it would being able to get the 2.5. 2.5 is -148 here. That's too steep in my opinion. I know some people took it at -150 when it opened. Price matters. Price matters a lot because price determines what your break even rate is on that play, right? So -148 is pretty close to a 60% implied probability, which means you have to hit that at least 60% of the time to break even, right? And that could be difficult price wise over the course of taking that price. Between these two numbers, I would take the 2.75, just accepting the fact that half your bet's going to push if it hits 3. If I've convinced you that the 2.5 is it's too low and you take the -148, I won't blame you. But when it opened 150, I waited to see which way it was going to go, and at one of my outs, it went down to -135, and that was an automatic pounding for me. So that's what I took. So Loudon +2, 10-1 on the money line. Of course, those aren't available, and I've told you I've guided you a little bit on what I think is playable. Monterey Bay draw no bet at +217. Again, I think 2-1 on draw no bets a good play. Anything lower than that, I would just take the half a goal. And unlike me, if this game ends up as a draw, you'll win, and I'll just have to deal with the push. But I went with the draw no bet for the value there. And then Phoenix, San Diego over 2.5. I got -135. If it, you're probably going to see closer to -150 at a lot of the outs that you see. To maybe protect your bankroll a little bit, consider the over 2.75. But that's it. I mean, it's a nice slate. There's some good games here, and I have to say the Monterey Bay one wasn't even one I was really even considering as I went to bed last night. And then as I woke up this morning and thought about it a little bit more, I was like, this actually doesn't make any sense. I don't think Oakland hasn't shown us enough. So those are my bets. The games tomorrow, I'm not going to be doing a video for the games tomorrow. The lines aren't out, but I will tell you briefly, and I am not bound by this, but this is I'll just tell you sort of. Sacramento is hosting Tulsa. I think Tulsa should be a slight favorite, and my fair on this is 2.5 on the total. RGV is hosting the Toros. Let's just pull this down here. There we go. RGV is hosting the Toros. RGV is hosting San Antonio. San Antonio should absolutely be the favorites, and the fair on this is 2.75 in my opinion. And then Atlanta United 2 hosting Charleston, kind of a question mark game. How strong really is Charleston? How bad really is Atlanta? I mean, it looks so flat against Tampa Bay, but Charleston should be the favorite. The fair on this, in my opinion, is 2.5 juiced on the over. At 2.75, I wouldn't play it either. But if for some reason it's open 3, I think it's an under. I think Charleston really hasn't shown us that they can really pepper a goal. And I also think that they can hold off. The play in this game might be Atlanta team total under, depending on what that opens. But anyways, those are my fares. That's what I have jotted down. That's what I'll be basing my plays on. I'm not telling you those are automatic plays or those are off. So don't hold me to that. But if you're curious what I end up playing tomorrow, follow me on Twitter at BetTheUSL. And that's where I post all of my plays in the USL. Good luck with all your bets. If you play, if you're curious on watching, look, this is a league where it's important to get some qualitative information as well, right? So I recommend watching a game watching at least a game a weekend to sort of get an idea of sort of what the USL culture is like. It's really important, I think, to see what home field looks like for a lot of these teams. If you watch a Loudoun United match, you'll notice there's almost no one in the stands. If you watch an LA Galaxy 2 match, you'll notice there really is nobody in the stands. If you watch a match happening in Louisville or New Mexico or Phoenix or Tampa, where these independent clubs have an amazing fan base, it'll look like an absolute party. And it's important to have that information as well, because I think that does help a couple of the teams in the USL. So qualitative data just as important as quantitative data in the USL, especially early on. And yeah, good luck with all your bets. See you next time. Midweek. Coming back midweek. Bye.